Hey everyone, here's a 12 Halls of Infusion I did today. It is week 2 of Dragonflight Season 4. It was a 12 Halls of Infusion during the Fort Bolstering week. Halls of Infusion, pretty scary key, and especially with Fort Bolstering, it kind of have a lot of pain points. Let's talk about gear for a second. Th this is actually not the gear I used for the dungeon. I was using old season 3 stuff, but I literally just got 4 set from doing LFR, so I equipped that. The main thing I want to talk about is like trinkets, weapons, and whatnot. So if you guys didn't know, during week 1, I from the time walking chest I did get Rashawn's, which is actually what I was gonna buy with my first bullion, but because I got that from my time walking chest, I ended up buying the Airnog ring with my first token. So as you can see, I have that maxed out, 12 out of 12, 528. Airnog ring, it's a fully stat budgeted ring with an additional effect that is pretty strong. You do need a source of fire damage to proc it, but the Helm enchant plus Rashawn's is pretty much enough on its own. But on top of that, I also have something like Resonator, which is fire damage, and All Totem does have some procs which do fire damage. So I do have a fairly consistent way to proc the ring. But yeah, for trinkets, I did get All Totem week 1 with Avoidance. This trinket is insane in AoE. Does fall behind on single target, but on top of being insane for damage in AoE, it also has the defensive component. So when you get an Earth proc, it gives you armor. When you get I don't know if I think it's ice or something, you get like a heal. There's a haste proc. The fire one does damage, so it's pretty good for that. And then Resonator, I actually don't think Resonator is that insane. When you read this, you kind of think, okay, this is a tank trinket, but honestly, it does more damage than it does absorbing. The absorb portion of it is pretty weak, but I mean, it's either that or I guess I could be using Ray Charge still, but I don't know. For now, this is just what I've been using. Other than that, like nothing has really changed. I'm still using. I guess I did craft this week 1. I crafted my foot wraps. This thing does crazy damage in keys. It might just because the item level, but yeah, it's been popping off. There's my other ring if you guys care. I'll just go through my gear. Like I said, like I was using season 3, but oh yeah, this is what I got from my vault. If you guys wanted to know, I got a pretty solid necklace. I think this is the reason I went this was because I'm thinking in the future when I'm using both of the fire rings, those two don't exactly give a ton of haste. So having a super high haste necklace just kind of to fill in the haste gap sounded pretty nice. And then yeah, just like pretty standard stuff. For talents, I was running this. I've been running this pretty much in 100% of the keys I've been doing. I guess I've been running something like this for the class tree, but for the guardian tree, this has been feeling really well. I think that 2 points survival instincts it feels really good. Having a 32-second bark skin and then 2 charges of a short CD survival instincts is it literally just it feels good to me. I think bear tree doesn't really matter. What matters most is your knowledge of the dungeon, the routing, what does damage do you, when do you need defensives, what can you kite, what can you stop, what can you interrupt. So I think you just like play around with whatever you want. It's the same thing with like Galactic Guardian, Twin Moonfire versus Flashing Claws. I get quite a bit questions asking me like which ones do I play, which one do I think is better. I think both are fine. Like I think you can time the exact same keys using either or. Just I recommend people just try them out. I literally only run Flashing Claws just because it feels better. I don't necessarily think it's better numerically or objectively. I just run it simply because it feels better for me. That's enough yapping though. Let's get into the key. So the route that you're going to see in this video is not what I typically do. I do like skipping the dragons later in the dungeon, but we end up pulling all 3, which yeah, on 4 bolstering, not 100% ideal. This first pull is, this is typically where you make or break the key. A lot of groups just end up wiping on this first pull. So as a tank, what I'm thinking here, or let's talk about what's going to kill you in these pulls. So there's 2 main things here that are going to be doing the damage. One, obviously, is melee auto attacks. Because we're pulling so much, you are just going to get meleeed pretty hard. So maintaining a couple stacks or a few stacks of Iron Fur is going to be ideal here. But the thing that like will catch you off guard is going to be the Spear Flurries. So if you guys didn't play in Season 2 or you didn't know, Spear Flurries did get slightly reworked. Now when the defenders cast them, it puts a small little telegraph on the ground that'll show you where it's casting, and then it'll just like kind of channel down, and anyone that stands in that area is going to get hit very hard and get a bleed applying to you. If you do just like soak into Spear Flurry, you will refresh the bleed. As you see here, I have 3 bleeds. The fact that I live here is just like it's kind of unfathomable. But other than those 2 things, that's really the only thing that's going to kill you. And like as you can see here on 4 Bolstering, do not be afraid to kite. You know, use your Typhoons, use your Ursul's Vortex to help you, you know, get away from the mobs. Because I mean, you know, surviving, you know, 6, 8 stacks Bolstering is not going to be, or it's going to be pretty hard. So one thing there, I'm actually going to rewind it because I think this is important, especially for this dungeon, or I guess only for this dungeon. A lot in this first area, so right here, this pack, like there's so many packs where when you initiate here, they're going to start casting. So see, as soon as I charge in here, immediately we have a demo shout and an expulse going off. So whenever I'm going into a pull, I try to always make sure I have an incap roar available to stop those casts. Like the 2 casts in this area are expulse and demo shout. Like if you're in a scenario where you only have your kick and an expulse and a demo shout is going off, you like 100% of the time just want to get the expulse. If expulse goes off, it's in a higher 4 key. It's like pretty much guaranteed going to lead to death, but it also could just result in a wipe. I don't think I've seen one go off this season, so I don't know exactly how much it does, but the thing with demo shout is it's obviously not good if it goes off. I believe it's a 25% damage, or like you deal 25% reduced damage, and then it stacks. But the reason why it's bad if that goes off is because you're doing less damage, which means the pack lives longer, which means you potentially need to stop more things overall. So as you can see there, as soon as I initiated, there was a bunch of casts, so I just incap right off the bat. So you want to make sure that you're not pointing Spear Flurry towards your group, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're sidestepping it so you don't stand in it either. It does do a lot of damage. You can't really just hold still. So see right there, it was going off, so I just move. Kind of annoying with entangling. Yeah, make sure we're getting all those kicks. You can double pull this like this pack with the next one, but I figured, you know, it's bolstering. And like this timer, I don't really know how it compares to other ones, but from my experience, the timer is not that bad. So you can kind of afford to take it a little bit slower. That might change though in higher keys. So as you can see right here, some absolute shenanigans are happening. I randomly lose threat on an apparatus, and then one of the apparatuses just falls through the floor. And that guy, we don't end up wiping the entire key, so that single apparatus puts us in combat for the entire key, so when people die, they can't release. And our healer can never drink, and our rogue is going to have a harder time getting to stealth. I mean, should we have just wiped at some point just to get out of combat? Probably, but thankfully it didn't end up mattering. And the funny thing is, this isn't even the only time this happens in the key. There is another instance where a mob falls through the floor. I do remember this happening in Season 2, but not this, like I don't know, I just feel like it's crazy that it's happened twice. So as you can see there, yeah, that mob is just putting us in combat. Thankfully, it doesn't actually end up doing anything. Like it did cast Expulse at one point, but I think we were LOS from it or something, and then it doesn't end up using the beam, so it's not that bad. For this boss, the basic like strategy is just moving left to right when people drop the puddles. So like you see here, Power Overload is going to go out. We're just going to move to the left, plant, and then just rinse and repeat that. I do move a little fast here. I was kind of expecting our people to like just hold still, but they follow the boss. So I guess that's my bad for moving it earlier. But yeah, like just move left there, plant. Once power load goes off again, we just move right, and you rinse and repeat that. It does help if you have a priest who can master spell it every now and then, just because like you can instantly move. But this fight's gotten significantly easier since Season 2. This boss doesn't do a lot of tank damage, so you can afford to maul a lot more. gonna pop Incarn here because there's really no reason to hold it. During Incarn, I'm mangling, mauling, and then with my excess rage, I am Iron Furring. So Spirit Link Totem was dropped there, so I made sure to stand in it to help the healer. I immediately start moonfiring these devices just to pick up initial aggro. And you can Incap Roar and Typhoon. I don't know, actually, I don't think you can Typhoon them, but I know you can Incap Roar their Purifying Blast. You do want to try to stop those as much as you can. This circle you see is actually fake until they die. A lot of people, they'll see that circle and they'll instinctively run out of it, but you only have to worry about it once the little orbs actually like start dying. Once they start dying, you're going to want to move, and then you can use stuff like Ursul's and Typhoon to keep them on the boss, because you need those little adds to explode on the boss to break him out of his like transition phase. So 18 stacks. This boss gets more stacks the longer that phase takes. 18 is honestly pretty good. Like, I'd say 20 or less, and like you did something right. So yeah, as you can see here, yeah, you're gonna have to do bigger moves just because of the nature of the fight. With 18 stacks, the puddles are bigger. So, but the area is more than big enough to do big moves like that. Make sure you're not pointing Titanic Fist towards the group, and that's pretty much it. This fight's pretty easy. As you can see, I'm really just trying them all as much as I can. Especially with this new tier set, Maul and Raise are doing 20% increased damage with the 4 set, so the more Mauls you get, or Raises in a key, the more overall damage you're going to do. And not even just damage, Urshak's Fury is obviously getting more value because of the damage increase, so trying to Maul and Raise more is going to be a good habit to get into. So this next part, you can go left or straight. I like going left. The thing with going straight is there's so many frogs, and if you're in a really coordinated group with really like solid slows and CCs, it can be free, but left or this is really easy. So right here's another shenanigan part. I'm thinking like, okay, let's shroud, distract right, and just run past them, but as like because of that apparatus, we're actually in combat, so we can't even stealth. So we have to end up playing this. I actually think count ends up being perfect, so it's not even that big of a deal. So I do end up pulling these with the next pack. There is a stealth mod right here, so just be careful of that. I preemptively Ursul there just because of the Swoglets. I am in comms with these people. This isn't a pug, by the way. So I'm like telling my group, try not to get meleeed by the Swoglets because they do hit pretty hard. And I'm not running Poison Dispel, so you know, we do have Poison Control, which is really strong, but if people are getting poisoned consistently for a long period of time, it can't be an issue. So as you can see there, that Dragonfly just fell through the floor. No idea how our warrior died there. I'm pretty sure like he randomly got hit by a mechanic that I'm unaware of, but this hallway area, like realistically, nothing's too dangerous. As you can see, these mobs do melee pretty hard. They did have 3 stacks of bolstering, but that's just one thing I've noticed is that these mobs actually just like straight up melee kind of hard. So I am more liberal with my Iron for usages here. Dazzled, the Dragonflies cast an ability called Dazzle. It's like a cone that they shoot in front or whatever. You can actually just sidestep it. Obviously, if you can, you want to kick it just to reduce the chance of human error, but you can just look at the frontal like visual and dodge it. So I end up pulling these. Don't even know if we needed them necessarily, but again, like the Dragonflies really aren't that scary. They just do a Dazzle cast and it's not that dangerous. So those Zealots patrol, their stealth, you really want to make sure you don't get stunned by them. You can absolutely just get 100 to 0 in that stun. So spamming swipe or thrash if you have it, just to try to break them out of stealth so you don't get stunned, is going to be pretty good there. Definitely going to want to run Ursul's for this dungeon. Ursul's there or in this area is extremely strong because of the Swoglets. As you can see, our healer is just getting run down by it, but you can also run burst, or I think the talent's called bursting, or no, what's it called? Infected wounds. The one that makes it so your Maul and Raise apply a slow. That talent's also pretty strong. Can be pretty strong in this dungeon. If you plan on kiting a lot, or not even necessarily kiting, but helping your group kite the Swoglets. We didn't need. don't run it just because it doesn't feel great to drop like a second charge of SI, but that is an option. So see here, I'm like pretty weak on defensives. I just got Rage Sleeper there, so I'm a little more confident face tanking. We do have Lust here, so I'm like in my head, I'm thinking we could just double pull this next area, like this 5-pack with the next 2-pack, but I don't have Incarn, don't have Rage. I do have Barkskin and 2 SI charges, but I mean, our timer right now is looking insanely free, so I just make the call to just pull this 5-pack by itself and Lust. I kind of make a small goof here, which you'll see in a second. I did pop SI and Barkskin on the pull there just because, you know, triple Zealots, like I said earlier, these guys do kind of melee kind of hard, so just having that SI and Barkskin to help me get to my like established phase of like, you know, Iron Fur is really helpful. So I'm like, okay, you know, well, this pack's really dying, let me chain here, but then like in my I completely forget about bolstering. This is kind of goofy. I should not have done this, but luckily these 2 mobs really only do tank damage. As long as you can pick up the little adds, it's not that bad. So if you're wondering how did everyone just die there, it's because the shock troopers got their cast off. What the cast does is it like applies a buff to them that makes it so the next time they melee something, it does a huge zap. So like if that cast does go off, you can actually counterplay it as a tank and just kite the mob so it doesn't hit you, but I didn't even see it go off, to be honest. That might have been my interrupt. I'm not really sure, but thankfully this pack is not too scary. Like if people die, what is that, Pyretic Burst? It does hit pretty hard, but you know, you should have enough tools as a bear to mitigate most of the damage. During Zephyr's call, when all these ads are spawning, I make sure to try to kind of like pull a little bit of rage, so I have a raise available. If you can like thrash and raise those ads, you pretty much have infinite threat in that scenario, and that goes for like any pull. If you can get an early raise off, you're pretty set on threat. So yeah, you could pull that 5-pack with this pack. It's just if a cast goes off, it's pretty much like one of the shock troopers cast goes off. It can just straight up be GG. So you know, especially as a bear, like as a Vengeance Demon Hunter, you just silence into like grip, misery, silence, chaos nova, grip. You know, you do all that stuff. You just do Vengeance Demon Hunter things, and you're fine. But as a bear, you know, a lot of the pulls that I'm doing, I'm like thinking to myself, like, is this a realistic pull? Like, if I'm pugging, like what I'll usually just be thinking like, can I solo kick every important cast in this pack? You know, if no, okay, maybe I won't do that pull. If yes, then yeah, sure, let's do it. Because like, you know, pugs have a pretty bad habit of just never interrupting or whatnot, so there's only so much you can do as a bear, but there I'm making sure we have enough percentage, and as you can see, we have perfect percent if we kill everything from this point on. This boss, similar to first boss, really no tank damage, so I'm just trying to maul as much as I can, do as much damage as I can, maintain Moonfire up 100% of the time, 5 stacks of Thrash 100% of the time. I'm going to taxi our Ret Paladin here, give her a roar. We have a totem. My rogue is screaming at me to pull ASAP because like he rolled the bones or something, so I immediately pull the boss. Pop everything there, Incarn, Rage Sleeper, Barkskin. On the opener, I Moonfire, and then I'm just trying to generate or get to 5 stacks of Thrash as fast as I can, and then just mangle maul, mangle maul. So the first time the boss casts Gulp, he does it extremely fast. As you can see there, he pretty much immediately did it when the ad spawned, so you don't have to do such an exaggerated move. If you don't know like what I'm talking about, every time the boss casts Overpowering Croak, he'll summon a bunch of these little Swoglets. They're the same ones that you fought earlier in the dungeon that will chase down people and melee them, apply the poison. So what you ideally in a perfect world, everyone stacks, drops the Swoglets, and then you run away. So I'm pinging where I want us to go. We're dropping the Swoglets, we run. I call for slow totem. I think it's like Earthbinding totem, and then once they get closer, I'm going to Ursul's them. Right there, we did not do a big enough move. That's my bad. You want to move so like people don't like if you don't do a big enough move, the Swogglets are just gonna like straight up, walk into melee and start hitting everyone. So next move we do is gonna be a lot more like exaggerated. We're gonna actually create distance. There is like a little thing you can do where if it looks like a Swoglet is about to run out of the Gulp's circle, you can in-cap roar them. Obviously, the in-cap roar is going to break pretty much instantly, but you can buy an extra second to because you'll like micro stun them for a second. I think I do that here, as you'll see. But yeah, that move was a lot better. So right here, see that Swoglet? I in-cap roar stun, like it stuns him for a second, and then it bought enough time. This boss is pretty easy though. It's pretty much like if you can survive overpowering Croak, you kill the boss. There's really nothing else to it. This next trash is like where it gets kind of spicy. I actually end up dying in this key. It's not here, but I'm kind of excited to see it because it's pretty damn unlucky. So yeah, like in a ideal route, I do skip this dragon, but like because it's bolstering, I'm telling my group to try to focus down the dragon. In hindsight, or like watching this back, I really should just try to be mauling as much or a lot more. Like instead of mangle raise, I should be targeting the dragon and mangle mauling and keeping Moonfire up on it. But my group is kind of locked in right now, and the dragon's actually dying at a very good speed, so it doesn't really matter. So, okay, I always like sidetrack myself. Let's talk about like this area, like what's gonna kill you, because this is some of the hardest trash or hardest hitting trash in the game. So we'll start with the dragons. Deep Chill. Typically it's like, can your group survive it? But it can do a lot of tank damage. It just does a fairly large initial hit, puts a dot on you, but it also slows you, which can be bad because the other ability that the dragons cast is a breath. The good thing about the breath is that you can outrange it. So let's like kind of focus on that for a second. So yeah, the Deep Chill goes out, does good amount of damage. Breath happens. I run away from the dragon. You don't even have to run that far, and I'm taking 0 damage from it. If you have like big cooldowns like Incar and Rage of Sleeper, you're super strong, you can just face tank it, but it's not a bad idea just to get in the habit of running away from every single one. Like as you can see here, I'll do it again. Oceanic Breath, I run away. I take 0 damage from it. So that's the first like scary part. The next one, there is none of this pull, but it's the Ice Callers. I'll talk about that in the next pull because there's going to be 2 of them, which it can be very dangerous because they aren't force desynced. You can get hit by 2 in a row, and in a higher 4 key, that can just straight up one-shot you. So finish off this pull. The Earthshakers are just irrelevant. They do like a circle on the ground that will stun you if you're in it. Just don't stand it, you're good. So yeah, these Ice Callers, they have 2 casts. The first one you will see here is Ice Shard. It does a ton of tank damage. Like, I was in Incarn plus Rage plus Bark Skin, which is like 50-something% DR, insane HP, and it did 25% of my health. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but like when you consider how much DR I have, like it's crazy how much damage it does. If you're in a coordinated group, you can like ask people to stop it for you, but if you rotate through cooldowns, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. They also do like a regenerative miscast. I actually don't even know if that's what it's called, but it just does like a heal, I think. You literally just kick that. It's like the only kick in this entire area. So it's pretty easy to just get that. So here we have an Ice Caller and a Dragon. So I'm outranging the breath and then rotating through cooldowns to try to not just get one tapped by Ice Shard. I think in this key I do die to an Ice Shard in the next area, and it hit me for about 900k, so it's definitely no joke. Don't be afraid to in-cap roar to stop it or to Typhoon it. You can like hard CC it that way. The Gale Slingers did get a small change, or I guess it's a pretty significant change, where they cast this like Thunder Strike ability. I don't even know if that's new, but I don't stress about interrupting that at all. It does pretty much 0 damage. Let's see if it goes off here. Or no, it didn't. I'm too much of a freak. I stopped it, but yeah, like if you die in this area, it's almost like 100% the chance going to be to either an Ice Shard or you're just face tanking the breath without cooldowns. This boss is pretty much just a healer check, but it can be made a lot easier if you know how to like properly tank it. So because we have 3 melees, what you want to do is you want to try to tank the boss really close to the like pillar that you're going to be hiding behind, so your melee DPS can still hit the boss. So as you can see here, what the boss is casting Hailstorm. I'm behind the pillar, but I can still hit the boss. You know, especially like I said, because we have 3 melee, having more uptime, you know, it reduces the time that we're fighting the boss, so our healer can, you know, not stress as much. It's not like too big of a deal because me, the Ret, and the Rogue all have like increased melee range, but our Arms Warrior might struggle a little bit to hit the boss. So as you can see here, positioning the boss. Another thing, like when you're like, this boss isn't as easy as just picking a pillar that's not gonna break and then running behind it. You also have to be paying attention to the other pillars around. If like, so there's 2 phases the pillars can be in. There's like half broken and like fine. So as you can see, the cracked pillars are like half broken. The next time the boss does Hailstorm, they will break. So you need to make sure that you're positioning the boss in such a way where they're not going to break while you're LOSing on the pillar. So as you can see here, I'm going to pause actually. So this pillar and this pillar are going to break. So they're going to have a circle like this, like around them. So let's say like I put the boss right here. Well, now we have to LOS here, but this is going to break onto it. So that's why like I want to make sure that we're standing here. So as you can see, yeah, right? Like if the boss was here and we had to LOS here, we're dead. That's why I position the boss in this way. I hope that makes sense. I'm terrible at explaining things, but other than that, it's just pretty much like a patchwork fight, just trying to do as much damage as possible. This boss can do a decent amount of tank damage. She does like this cast on the tank that does some frost damage that like a warrior could like taunt spell reflect, but I really just I'm rotating through cooldowns. I do hold Incarn here because the next pull is extremely scary, but don't be afraid to frenzied regen because this boss does do a very consistent amount of damage. And then just rotate through cooldowns and you should be fine. This next area got significantly easier. In Season 2, the waves came much more frequently, and I believe they were faster. Now they are more infrequent. As you can see there, I actually wasn't in bear form, so I just immediately proc my trinket. So this pull is kind of scary. I do die here, as you'll see. So we got the double, like, scary mobs. We got an ice collar and a dragon. I don't end up running away from this breath just because I am in everything and I can just spam frenzy regen and be immortal. So on top of the like heal cast that you want to stop on the ice collars, there's also the ragers. They cast boiling rage, which is like pretty much irrelevant, but they also cast something called tidal divergence. If that goes off, it's very, very bad. As you'll see here, one does end up going off. I want to say I died because of it, but I actually don't think it was the reason I died. I think it's just because like, I was tunnel visioning so hard on it, I wasn't actually like pressing buttons or paying attention to what's hitting me. Yeah, so right here is where the tragedy happens. So the cast goes off. I'm at 50% health. Ice shard goes off. Yeah, I go from 50% to 0 from the ice shard. We do recover, thankfully. It's really nice when you're playing with a group of people that don't just immediately like panic when the tank dies and they can kind of recover. But yeah, like these Aqualings, like there's a reason right now why I'm not just like chaining. It's because these Aqualings water bolts can do a significant amount of damage. I so like yeah, like right here I make the call to just wait. Our timer's completely fine. We are gonna have percentage, so we don't have to like stress about it, and we just wait for the warrior to come back. I'm actually gonna skip ahead just because we do wait here. Yeah, so I'll go back. I notice the warrior's pretty much here, so I just end up going in, pop everything on the pull here. We've already fought these mobs, so just gonna making sure we kick the refreshing tides. That's what it's called, kicking that. And then making sure we're also stopping tidal divergences using our in-cap roars, typhoons, and then hopefully our group can fill in the gaps. So this next mob is it's a pretty common lust target. We don't have lust for it, so that's not an option. But this mob is extremely scary. At a certain key level, it's pretty much just a one-shot check. So, oh yeah, right here, our warrior does die. That's my bad. I didn't actually like call that I'm pulling the mob back. So, and I didn't even taunt, which is like pretty surprising for me. Like I usually, if I'm pulling like a priority mob or a boss or whatever, a mini boss, I usually just taunt. But so that's my bad there. So yeah, inundate. I mean, as a tank, it's pretty irrelevant. You kind of just live it. But if you're playing a DPS or healer, you're gonna want to make sure that you're fully topped, and at a certain key level, you're gonna want to defensive it. The way you're gonna die to this mob is when when she casts flash flood. You're not paying attention to the wave, so like you run away or you run out of this circle to dodge it, but then you also get hit by a wave. So just like make sure you're paying attention to where the wave is going. Like as you can see, like I guess I'm not even doing that necessarily, but like right there, like I could have gotten super unlucky there, and if the wave was coming like as you can see, my group did the exact same thing. I just got lucky. So because 2 people are dead here, even though the mob is pretty low, I do just end up setting Incarn here. Fortified, this boss really isn't that bad anymore. They reworked it, so you only ever get one transition or intermission phase at like 60% HP or something. So realistically, the only way we're gonna be to play this key is if everyone dies to this mob. But thankfully, key level 2 low, the inundate doesn't one-shot us, and our healer can just top us up for every single one. You do want to kick every Aqua's barrier. You can solo kick it if you have a melee kick, which I do as a tank, as every tank can. If you're playing with a mage, they can spell steal it, and you really want to let them do that because they're unkillable. The absorb is huge, and it's one less target your healer has to worry about. So yeah, here's pretty boring. We have to wait for a group. Our healer and Rhett got lost for a second, so not great. Oh, I'm going wrong direction. So yeah, like we're gonna pull this boss with what, like 5 minutes left? Yeah, like let's just say 5 minutes, more than enough time for this boss, especially on Fortified. This boss does have a pretty nasty tank buster that you are gonna get hit with quite a bit more because he's gonna send or transition less, but one thing you can do to make the globes a little bit more manageable is just stack and then everyone just move in the same direction. So as you can see, Squall Buffet here is going to knock you back. You really want to make sure that you get to the boss super fast because the boss will just straight up melee somebody if you don't get back fast enough. And even at this key level on Fortified, it can just one-shot somebody. But yeah, that Tank Buster does do quite a bit of damage, so you're going to want to make sure that you have at least one defensive up every single time that goes off. Ideally more, especially just because like nothing else in this fight does damage. Another thing that you really want to make sure is when you get hit by Squall Buffet, you want to make sure that there's no orbs behind you, because if you get knocked into an orb, you can just straight up die. Those orbs do an insane amount of damage. So just make sure your positioning is good. You're not going to get knocked by an orb. And then you can either wall charge or skill bash back to the boss so someone doesn't get meleeed. These ads right here, like, as you can see, I'm not panicking. I'm not just immediately interrupting. I'm like telling my group, okay, let's kill this one. I did tell Rogue to sap one, but I guess he wasn't able to. And yeah, we're just kind of like calmsing stops here. So I think right here, I'm like saying, okay, I get next with Incap Roar. I got this. And yeah, like that's pretty much it. If you can, you do want to try to CC them, because like right now these two mobs are just giving the boss a ton of stacks for free. I mean, if we could sap one and repentance one, maybe even hex one, I mean that's so many less stacks that the boss will get. It doesn't end up mattering, but that is something that you can do. I don't think there's nothing that we can do. I mean, I guess we could cyclone one maybe, but I don't know how realistic that is. So yeah, see here, like typically I would send, or never mind. No, what I was gonna say was irrelevant. I was gonna say I was gonna hold Barkskin there for Squall Buffet, but this is why like double SI is really nice because like you can send your Bark Exchange Raid Sleepers a lot more for damage and then just hold, or use Survival Instinct for those big tank busters. So here I have SI plus Rage of Sleeper plus my Trinket, so I'm like pretty safe on this one. But yeah, 24 stacks the boss got there. That is pretty high. That's not ideal. If this was Tyrannical, we might just straight up get one shot by Tempest Fury. But yeah, even like with all the shenanigans of like boss or mobs falling through the floor, I end up dying. As you can see, like the pretty easy timer. And this route honestly is garbage. Like I feel like pulling 3 dragons on a 4 bolstering week is just kind of a no-no. I mean, our healers, thankfully our healer's insane though. But yeah, that's the key. I think I show my damage breakdown. I don't actually have it anymore on my because I did more keys after this, but let's see if I do. So as you can see here, that's my actual gear I ran, running Season 3 tier set. Please show damage breakdown. Oh, I guess I might not have shown it. Oh, no, there we go. So, as you can see, like the resonate or the resonance trinket, is it resonance or resonator? I don't even remember, but it does do a fair amount of damage. I know like 3% sounds low, but when you consider the fact that it does some healing, it's actually not bad. As you can see, like swipe is kind of creeping up on me. The reason why swipe is so high is because when like me personally, just like the way that I play the game, I tend to swipe quite often. Or not swipe, spam Iron Fur quite often. So, if your rotation is just swipe or Mangle Thrash, and then if you can't do anything else, you just press swipe, then, swipe is just going to naturally be higher. If I was prioritizing raise more, or, yeah, especially in AoE, if I was prioritizing raise more, swipe would be quite a bit lower. But that's why, like, Thorns of Iron is pretty high, 7%. But yeah, like, this is pretty standard. I'm kind of sad we're losing the Season 3 tier set. Because I am in the habit of spamming Iron Fur, I am getting more value from this tier set because I'm just maximizing the absorb I'm getting during Rage of the Sleeper. And, because of just the nature of the Season 4 tier set, Maul and Rage doing 20% more damage, I probably should start pressing those buttons a little bit more to try to get more value out of it. But yeah, nothing really too like out of the ordinary here. I would say Raise, Thrash, Mangle. Here, yeah. Oh, okay. So I did run these talents, but yeah, here's the build I played. My healing breakdown, I remember, like number 1 was Ursock's Fury, and then number 2, which it was a Frenzied Regen, which was pretty close to beating Ursock's Fury. But yeah, that's the run. Pretty like that dungeon. I do like that dungeon. There's quite a bit of important casts. There are some things that can kill you as a tank, but it's one of those dungeons where if you play very well and you pay attention to, what casts are happening, making sure that you're rotating through your CDs well enough, it's very manageable. And, I think Guardian Druid does pretty well in that dungeon. But thank you guys for watching. I have lots of other runs recorded. This was just the highest run we've done so far, so I wanted to get this one out as soon as I could. Hope everyone is enjoying Season 4. I am. If you guys want to know what I'm going to buy with my next Bullion, I'm going to buy Broodkeeper's Ring, probably 100%. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.